Hey guys, welcome back to KY Coins and Collectibles. Tonight I want to talk about key dates. And there are so many different key dates over all the different denominations of coins, uh, depending on if it's quarters, silver dollars, pennies. Every series has a key date. And I want to talk about what really makes a key date. A lot of people think it's just low mintage or the year, and it does involve that, but there's so much more to it. And I really want to talk about different key dates for different series. And when I say different series, I mean nickels, quarters, dimes, dollars, denominations. So there's one for every denomination of coinage, and a lot of people collect certain series. A lot of people collect silver dollars, or they'll collect pennies, nickels, or they collect silver dollars and they stack them as well. A lot of people have been talking about stacking silver dollars, and I do. I love stacking silver dollars. If I can get them at a good deal, I'll buy them up all day long. I know silver has dropped here in the last couple of weeks. It's kind of been up and down. We've had some really high prices in the last few months. It's kind of down right now, and it's August 12th, so keep that in mind. 2024. So back to the key dates. If you're collecting coins, you will come across certain coins that are very hard to find. They're scarce. They have low mintage. A lot of them may have been melted, or the overall just survival rate is very low. And there's a lot of different examples of this, and I'll get to that. I want to show you some of the key dates I've got and this is just a few of them. I've got some key dates in my albums that I've not had graded, and I do recommend having key dates graded and authenticated, because it's very easy to have a key date that's worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Very easily that can happen. So you want to make sure you have the real deal. And if you ever want to go sell it, it will ease the buyer's mind, and it'll just be easier to sell. You don't have to worry about it being real or getting authenticated. It's already been graded, authenticated, and it's ready to sell. And like I said, you may be talking thousands of dollars. So I've got a few here, and I've got a couple semi-key dates, and we'll go over what they are too. The biggest one that I see people collecting and looking for key dates are Morgans and peace dollars. Peace dollars have gotten really big in the last year or so. A lot of people are trying to drive up the prices on them to make them similar to Morgans, and every year they do get older and older, so the prices will go up, and they've been going up very steady on the peace dollars. So Morgans and peace dollars are the two biggest collectible items that I see from coin dealers and people that collect coins. And of course, wheat pennies, wheat cents. It's very easy to put a set together of wheat cents, and there's a few good key dates in that series. There's like three key dates or four, and you can have a full set pretty easy. And I've got my Morgan set here, or I've got one of my sets here, and I've got some key dates I want to show you. I have bought a few sets of Morgans, and I'm not going to have enough room to open my book. There we go. And I'll start, that's the later years, the 91 through 21s. So I'll show you this other book first, and it covers the first years. So every time I buy a set of coins or a collection or an album, I know there's probably not going to be key dates in it. And I have added a few key dates to this set, but more or less they kind of all look like this. This one's missing the 7/8, the 1878 7/8 tail feathers. And a lot of times these albums will be missing Carson City's, the CC mint mark, and that stands for Carson City. They're a little harder to find, especially in better condition. There are key dates from Carson City, a lot of semi-key dates, and this one's missing the 80cc, and it's got some of the other better dates in here. There's a couple, a CC, another Carson City, an 84 Carson City, and I believe this one is missing the 89cc, and that's a key date for the Morgans as well. But it never fails. Anytime I buy an album, there's going to be a few key dates missing. I bought this one, and I believe it had 90 coins or 89 coins in them, and there's 96 coins to this series. And I'll show you the later years, and there's a few missing out of here. The big one being the 93cc. That's going to be the most expensive one you buy. A lot of these 93s are right here. 93s are all key dates, semi-key dates. 94s and 95s. And I guess the main key date out of the Morgan is the 95, the 1895 Philly. And they only made, I believe, 880, and they were proof strikes only. I guess they were supposed to have been circulated business strikes, but I guess there's never been any found. So I guess you can say that's the hardest one to find, but there's so few of them, nobody really has it. That coin starts at like $40,000-$50,000, so that's not a lot of people are going to have that one. But the hardest one will be the 93S. That's usually the last one you get. That's the last one I got from my set, and I will show it to you here. This is just another set of Morgans that I had bought off a gentleman. It was a partial complete, just missing, I believe, 5 of the last key dates, which that's how most people are. They'll say, I've got all of them, but 4 or 5 of them. And it's always like that. This 030, it's a hard date. And this 030 is one of those key dates that you wouldn't really think it's a key date, judging by the mintage. So if you look at the front of the book here, it tells the mintages and for the year. So the 030, there was 4.4 million made. 4,450,000 1903 made, minted. So that's a big difference compared to the 93S, which had 100,000. So this 030 at one time was more expensive than this 93S. I believe it was back in the 60s, 50s or 60s, maybe late 40s. I'm not sure. But at one time it was. And it was because they had thought that all of the O3 O's had been melted down, and there wasn't the survival rate was very low, and there just wasn't. They didn't think there was many out there until they discovered bags full in the back of a vault at a bank, and it flooded the market and really dropped the price. So that's a story on how a survival rate can change the price point on any Morgan. Low mintage will make it more of a rare, scarce, probably key date, but that doesn't mean a coin that has 4 million minted can't be a key date as well, because it may have a crazy backstory. They melted all of them, or they got lost in some building fire or something like that. So that's really the Morgans. Like, there's a bunch of key dates. I mean, there's 5 or 6 hard key dates. Excuse me, hard key dates. I'll show you mine. This is kind of my prized possession of my Morgans, of course. This is my 93S, and it is AG3 details. I mean, I love it. It's got some good wear to it, but you can still make out all the details. It's very original. And another thing I was talking about earlier, a coin like this is expensive. Mine was around $2,000. So when you're buying a $2,000 coin, you want to make sure it's real and authenticated. So have it graded, make sure it's graded. On some of these key dates, there was low mintages, so that meant they only used maybe 1 or 2 die pairs. And the die pair it's the die and how they strike it. They might have used 1 die for the top and the bottom, so that die may have characteristics in it that can be found on the coin. So if they're only using 1 die, there may be a die break, or on this one, I believe in the T of her headdress, the Liberty, there's a little mark. There's a way to tell by the date how many little notches over from her neck to the date. And there's a few markers that will tell you if you have a real coin or not, because it's on all of them. Since they didn't change the die, you can really find out if it's a real coin or not. So, but with that said, still get it graded, or buy a graded one that's been authenticated from a reliable source, because you don't want to spend $2,000-$3,000 and get burned. It's a hard lick, and it's hard to recover from. So make sure they're graded, authenticated, and you've got the real deal. So this one right here, I believe I put my set together over at least 15 years. The first few years I was putting my Morgan sets together, I wasn't really trying to get all the dates. I just tried to get a lot of Morgans. Every time I could buy a Morgan silver dollar, I would buy it. I done that for a few years, probably 4 or 5 or 6 years. For the longest time, I was just anything I could buy, I would buy it. Started putting the set together. Got more into it. Seen the albums, I really liked it, and seen I had a lot of the same dates, a lot of 1921s, and just some of the easier dates to find, 86s, 81s, and so I tried to start looking more for different dates, because I was like, I've got a bunch of them, maybe I can put a set together. So fast forward 5 6 years, I've got a partial set put together, low grade dates, and then I kind of got more serious. And by that time, I was starting to buy semi key dates off eBay or going to coin shows or flea markets and just looking for those key dates. And I had really slacked off on uh, just buying anything. So I was narrowing my focus in on semi key dates and key dates. And by that time, I really loved it and I enjoyed the hobby. So I knew I wanted to spend more money on it and make it a bigger investment. And so I was okay with spending a couple $100 all the way up to, I think the one I spent the most on before this one might have been a 1894 Philly, and I think it was $800. And it was in good shape, so I knew I got a good deal on it. As a very reliable source, and he gave me a good deal on it. It was in good shape, so that was a lot for me to spend. But it was a key date. The 94s are hard to find. And I'll show you one. I believe this one actually has a 94 in it. I know y'all like to see coins. So if there's anything you all really want to see, this one does have a 94. And let me make sure. Yeah. So this one's a lower grade than what I've got. But it's probably still I don't know, $400 or $500 coin. It's got good original. I mean, it's original, has some nice wear on it, but it's not slick. I like them in that grade. Like they look like they've been around the block a time or two, but they still have good details. And they're affordable. A lot of these harder key dates, like this 94S, I mean, that one's wore pretty bad, but it is very expensive, even in this war condition, lower grade. But yeah, at the time, this was the most I had spent on a coin. It wasn't this coin. The one I have is in my other set. I've got a lot of key dates I want to get graded out of my personal collection, but it is just so hard to take it out of this nice album. So that's a problem I have. I like them to be in the album. So really, the only one I don't have in the album is the 93S. So that's the only one I have graded. That is not in my other personal album. So once I bought the 94, I knew I was going to go all in and eventually buy the 93S. I had looked and watched eBay, and I had 3 or 4 coin shops around Kentucky and I believe Tennessee and one in Ohio looking for this date for me. And I had a price point I wanted to be in. I was hoping to be around, I was wanting to be $200 to $2,500. And it was hard to get in that range because a lot of these were coming back fine or good. And when you jump from about good AG to a good, you can jump $800 to $1,000 pretty quick. So it was hard to find something in my price range, and everybody's got different price ranges. This was a hard coin to buy. I'm glad I did. I mean, they're not making any more, and it's a very hard date to find. And a lot of people that I've talked to, they don't have a full set of Morgans, and I'm very proud of that. But I have worked very hard and spent a lot of money on it and a lot of time and research and learning about different grades and key dates and price points. So it's something that has taken me a long time to develop a skill for. But I'm very proud of it. But yeah, This is, I would consider, the king of Morgans. The 1895 Philly proof. It's really an unobtainable coin. But if you've got one, awesome. That's you've got a complete set. But every set I've seen that has been complete, they don't have the 95. Uh, I know a lot of people say, well, you don't have a complete set without the 95 Philly. Well, if that's the case, there's only a few handful out there, and nobody else has a complete set, which that's okay with me. I consider mine complete. Unless I hit the jackpot or lottery, I'm not going to have it anytime soon. But that's okay with me. I'm very happy with what I've got, and that's really all that matters to me. The rest of the key dates is kind of the same for the rest of coinage denominations. The closest one to the Morgans would be the piece dollars. There's a few. There's only a couple key dates for the piece dollars, but there's only a few coins. I believe there's only like 24 coins or something in the. I think there's only around 24 coins for the piece dollars, and for the Morgans there's 96. So there's a lot more Morgans than there are piece dollars. One of the main key dates is the 21 high relief piece dollar. This is actually one I had, and I got it graded just to get it authenticated. I figure it would come back clean. I figure it might be a slider, but it come back clean. That's okay. A couple $100 coin. The 21s are really nice, and I've actually got my red book here. And a good way to tell key dates is pick you up a red book, and this is my 24. I believe 25s are out, and it's very easy to work with. Basically, you just turn to silver dollars, go to your piece dollars starting in 1921 through 1935. It tells a little bit about it, and it gives the mintages, and it gives you a price point, which these aren't wrote in stone. These aren't just, if it's a very fine, it's $250. Now, these aren't what they are. This is kind of just a range. This can be off by 30-40%. You need to go do your research, look on sold items on eBay, go to Gray Sheet, and you can have a good idea of what they're selling for. This 1921 high relief, there was a little over 1 million made, and there is also a 1921 Morgan. And what they did was, the Morgan was made the same year, but it was the earlier part of the year up until December they made Morgans, and then they started making the piece dollar, I believe, at the end of the year. I believe it was in December of 1921. So there was only a few made. So that made it a little harder to find, and it was a higher relief. And then in 1922 they made the normal relief. This high relief was wearing down really bad. There is a 1922 high relief, but they're extremely rare. I've only seen a couple online, so they're very hard to find. The book says there was 35,000 of them made, so looks like one in proof, they've got it listed 250,000. So I guess it's kind of extremely rare to find. But like I said, I've only seen a few online. The next page here, we got the rest of the piece dollars, and you can see the ones that are really the key dates based on their mintages. This 1928 is the other key date. 360,000 made, and it really starts around $275. Uh, and now, like I said, it don't have to be a low mintage to be a key date. It can be a uh, higher mintage and with a low survival rate. Like the coin was used a lot. It was during a year of depression. People couldn't hoard up money. They had to use the money. There was a lot of coins like that. A lot of the walking liberties have some of those. The wheat pennies, there's a couple of wheat pennies like that. There's stuff like that in every denomination where years were tough, and different parts of the country. So you've got your San Francisco, your Philly, and your Denver, and your Carson City mint marks. You're talking 4 different places in the U.S. Now, economic hardship wasn't the same on the East Coast as it was in the West Coast, as it was in the East Coast, or South in Carson City, Southeast or Southwest, I guess you could say, as it was in Denver. So every place in different years had different hardships. In 1893, the San Francisco, the Morgan from 1893 in San Francisco is worth a lot more because of the 1893 Denver, or not Denver, Philly. They both have really low mintages, but in San Francisco it was hit harder with depression, and so people had to use their coins, and that's why a lot of them have really hard wear on them. Like, they got used so much, so it's harder to save your money when you're in a hardship and you have to use it, versus it wasn't so bad in Philadelphia versus San Francisco. So you'll find a lot more Phillies from 1893 that are in better shape than you will San Francisco's. And that's how it is across all coins. The same structure applies. One place may have had a lot harder hardship than across the U.S. Just because it's low mintage doesn't mean it was a key date or hard to keep. I know one example of that, and I'll flip to it and I will show you, is I believe it was the shield nickels, or let's see, it wasn't the shield nickels, it was the V nickels. And this is kind of an example. The numbers will really explain it. So the 1883 V nickel, everybody knows the V nickel. It's a very unique design. A lot of them have a lot of wear on them, but they were really high mintages for the most part. 1883 was the first year they were struck. The first year they made them without cents, and it really shows you here that the bottom of the reverse, that just says E pluribus union, and on the second variety later in the year they put with cents. And people may know the story where people were plating them to look like the new $5 gold piece, and they were trying to pass them off as $5 gold pieces, so they had to put cents on it. Okay, so if you look at the price points here in the mintage, there was 5 million of the ones without cents made, and then there was 16 million made with the one with cents. Well, look at the prices where they start at. The 16 million one starts at 20. The 5 million starts at 7. Why is that? Why would a coin with 3 times as many minted be worth more than the one with a lot lower mintage? And that's because when this coin come out, people hoarded them up. They thought they were going to be popular. They just saved them. Everybody saved them. Versus when the next one come out, people didn't save them. They spent them. So they're harder to find, even though there was more made. So it's the survival rate that makes this one a lot more rare. And there's more of a story to it as well, with the cents versus without cents, and it being gold plated. So that's an example of a survival rate, or the scarcity of the coin that survived, and that's perfect example right there. High mintage with a higher price versus a lower mintage with a lower price. It's usually the other way around, but there's you a good example. Moving on, I really want to show you some more coins. I showed you the piece dollars and the Morgans, and then I've got the wheat cents, and the key date for the wheat cents is a 1909 SVDB, and this again is out of San Francisco, and was the first year that they made the Lincoln wheat cent. Before this was the Indian head penny or cent. So 1909 SVDB. The VDB is the gentleman's initial that engraved the coin, Victor. This is a fine details, cleaned, and it's got, I believe, some cleaning, and it retoned. And on the back, on the very bottom, under the wheat stalks, it'll say VDB on the very bottom there. I'll try to give you a little better view of it. It's hard to see. It does have some nice retoning on it. You can tell it's been cleaned because of the way it's retoned. But it's very nice. I believe I paid around $800 for this. It was the first one I had seen in a coin shop, and we talked, and we ended up making a deal. And this was really the last one I needed for my wheat cents. Now there are a few other key dates, semi-key dates for the wheat cents. The 31S being one of them, which is another hard date to find. This one, the 1909S, has a low mintage, and I believe, I'll get my handy dandy red book out here. The 1909 SVDB, there's 484 million, and it starts around $725 in the book here. And then the 1909S is another key date. There was a 1.8 million made, and it starts around 90. And I believe the story on the VDB is they made them and they realized they were going to be, or they didn't realize it had his initials on them, and they realized it was going to make them very collectible and be worth more. So they had them stop making them with the VDB, because I guess people were trying to hoard them up. So it was just, whenever they make a coin they were making coins that was different and thought would be collectible, they tried to quit making them because it was just going to make people hoard them up and not spend them, and cause a coin to be expensive or be worth a lot later on. And I think they really didn't want stuff like that going on, because because you hear so many stories now about coins that have errors or varieties. People at the mint, they will steal them. If they see something happen to a coin and it's got a weird punch through a bolt or a different label, or one side's a penny and the back side's a dime, they try to sneak them out, and then it is just ends up being a $10,000 error or variety. So they really discourage that. Don't want that to happen. So I think that was kind of the case with the VDB. I forgot really what the whole story is, but it was something like that. So it's the key date of the wheat pennies, wheat cents. So I'm very happy to have that one. That's one of my main key dates as well. I just bought this one a couple weeks ago, this 1927S, and it's not been graded, but I got a really good deal on it. I got this one for, I believe, $40, and it's not in bad shape. You can make out good details, the date. I am starting to put together a large Standing Liberty quarter set. Within the next couple of days, I'm going to buy a partial set, and I've got about 10 or 15 already. And it's a harder set to put together. Some of the lower years, like the variety one, 1916, 1917, some of those are harder dates, especially in higher grades. And with that being said, there is a lot of key dates, semi-key dates, and just regular coins that they can have a lower survival rate in good condition versus mint state. So some coins you won't find in mint state. Some coins you won't find in lower grades. Some coins, a good example would be the GSA hoard, which everybody knows what the GSA Morgan silver dollars are. They're in the little box. They're in the plastic, and it'll say uncirculated silver dollar. A lot of those years from the Carson City Mint were found in bags full, and one of the main ones being the 1884 Carson City. Very popular. If you've seen a GSA, it's probably an 1884. And I'm going to try to remember how it was, and I'm going to turn to the Morgans here so I can give you a better idea. The 84s, the 84 cc's, there was like 1.1 million made, and I believe out of those, like 1.1 million, over half was in the GSA hoard, maybe like 6, 7, 800,000. So out of a million, we'll just do some round numbers. Out of a million, say 800 of them was in that GSA hoard, and they were packaged up. So that means only, we'll say 200,000 of them actually got into circulation and got circulated. So the ones that are circulated, therefore, would be more rare than the ones that were in the GSA hoard because there were so fewer of them. That's an example of a lower grade being more rare than a higher grade. And I see that to be true with a lot of the Carson Cities that were put into the GSA, the 83s, and I believe the 81s, 82s. Them are a little better. The 82 better dates. The 82, 83s, and 84s are some of the most popular, I believe, in the GSA hoard. And majority of them minted were put into the hoard. So it's harder to find circulated ones than it is uncirculated because of that. Um, so that's an example of how a lower grade can be more valuable than a higher grade based on its survival rate, but kind of the opposite of how you think about it. More were packaged and saved versus circulated. So that's an example. Um, Showed you the key date for the one of the key dates for the Standing Liberty quarters. This is one of my favorite designs on U.S. coinage, this Standing Liberty quarter. And if you can find these in mint state, they are just beautiful. I love the coins. They have a cool story to them. The 1916 and 17s, they have a variety. The 17 has a variety 1 and a variety 2. And it's basically Lady Liberty has a chainmail breastplate on covering her breast, because the first variety there was no breastplate, and a lot of people got mad because it showed exposed breast on a coin. So they had to redo it, and they had to put the breastplate on her. So that's the booby coin, a lot of people call it. So it has a really cool story to it. I love the design. It's a beautiful coin, beautiful eagle on the back, and Standing Liberty on the front. So really looking forward to working on that set. The last better key date I have here, and I just bought this one 2 weeks ago, is this 1913S Type 2. And a lot of these earlier coins, you'll see Type 2 or Type 1 or Variety 1, Variety 2. They just changed the coin a little bit. And on this 1913S Type 2, what they did was on the reverse, which is the back, where it says 5 cents below the buffalo, they recessed the date because it was on a mound, and the 5 cents stood up above the rest of the coin, and it wore down really fast. So they seen it was wearing down. They recessed the date so it wouldn't wear down as fast. Also, the Standing Liberty quarters, they did that. That's why a lot of them have the date wore down. But yeah, once they seen a coin was wearing a certain way, they tried to change it up. So this is a hard one to find. I believe I paid $140 for this one. And it's a G4. I think they were selling for about $165, $170. I wanted it to be graded, and this one wasn't nickel dated, whatever. What that is, a lot of people, there's this chemical you can put on the date. I think it's called nicodate, and it will bring out the date, but it leaves like an acid looking stain around the date. So a lot of these were nicodated, so it would bring out the date, and this one wasn't. So I was very happy with this one. It's got some good wire to it, original look to it. So this one was the only buffalo I needed to complete my set. It's an easier set to do. This is one of the harder dates. There's 2 or 3 other dates that are hard, but they're not too expensive to get if you search around. So yeah, that was one of my nicer coins I've got here lately. I just brought 2 other ones with me here, and I've got a 03 and I was kind of telling you about it. I believe it had like 4.4 million made, and it was at one time was worth more than the 93S. But they found bags and bags full of these that were uncirculated. I believe I've got 3 of these right now, and they're from $600 to $1,000. This one's retoned because of the cleaning it had a long time ago, but it still has really good details. a good album filler. The back is a little shinier than the front, but it's a harder date. This was one of the last dates that I needed for my Morgan. So my Morgan set. It was very hard to find. I just had to order it. For the piece dollars, this is a good example of a higher grade. I believe this was about a $500 coin. I had cherry picked this one. I believe I got this one for $90, and I knew it was in pretty good shape, and I sent it off to be submitted to have it graded, and it come back 64. So I did really good on this one. Very lucky. One of my better submissions. So a lot of these, any type of coin in higher grades can make it a more expensive coin, of course. Some have really sharp price point increases. So just going from an example would be the 1892S, and I'm actually right here on it. The 92S Morgan is considered to be a sleeper. So what that means is your grade jumps a little bit, and then boom, it jumps from 2,000 to 50,000. So when you go from an AU 50 to Mint State 60, you're going to go from 2,000 to 50,000. So all the 92S's I've seen have been good to about good to fine. A couple very fines, but not many. They're hard to find in EF or AU. I've seen a few AU, but they're $3,000 or $4,000 coins. And the mintage ain't very low, 1.2 million. It's just a coin that there was none that survived in mint state. They're all have wear on them. Every one I have are about the same grade. They're AG or good at best. They're just hard to find in AU condition or better. So that's an example of a grade scarcity, scarce in any grade above AU. They're all got used, and like I said, that goes back to San Francisco in 1892. They had to use their coins. They couldn't hoard them up. Everybody was having to use it. It was hard times. You couldn't save $1. You had to spend it. But that's really it. I just wanted to talk a little more about key dates. I really appreciate everybody for hanging around listening to me. If you've got any questions or any videos you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to do one on my Morgans here in the next night or two. I've got a couple new Morgans I want to show everybody. I've been trying to upgrade my set as I go, and it's very hard. Like once you get into those grades, those AU to extra fine grades, and some of those, they just get crazy expensive, especially the Carson Cities or your key dates. So pick you up a book, a red book, to help you with your key dates and your price points. It'll give you an idea. I mean, it's not set in stone. This is what they're costing or what you should pay. It just gives you a reference of, and it just helps you build a knowledge base for mintages, certain years, and just do your research. Don't get burnt. It's easy to. Once you're buying these key dates, I mean, it's easy to have a few $1,000s. I mean, I've got a lot. Just it's really crazy just to think about the coins I've got here in front of you. This is a $2,000 coin at least. We got another $800 coin. The 21's a couple $100. This was $150. I mean, you're talking of $3,000 or $4,000 in just a few coins. So know what you're buying. know the grades, make sure they're authenticated. Uh, as long as it's graded NGC, PCGS, or Annex, my Morgan is Annex, and it's authenticated, guaranteed. That really helps me sleep at night, knowing it's graded, it's real. If I ever had needed to get rid of it, I know the price point where to sell. So with that said, I appreciate you all again. Thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing, and I'll bring you more content. We've got a new baby, so I have been up a lot with the new baby. So there's that. There's a new baby coin collector in my family, so hopefully I can pass a lot of this down to him. I'm really excited about that, and I have been starting him his own little coin collection, and because I want them to have their own little coin collection, and that's really it. I appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have a great day, a great week. It's Monday going on Tuesday, and have a good week. Please like, share, and subscribe, and happy collecting.